We're the gang of six who organize these monthly meetings at the Little Theater, Solution University Little Theater in Rutherford. We have two terrific poetry features tonight, but I want to first say a few words about our format in case you don't know the format. We start with a piece by William Williams, or written by him or about him, because we're in Rutherford and we're Red Wheelbarrow Poets. Followed by the features, and then we'll take a short break, and we'll do the open mic. And then after the open mic, we'll ask our features to come back and close the reading with another poem each. So very excited to have two terrific features tonight, Katie Farris and Ilya Kaminsky.
Come on up, guys.
Coming up, all right.
Let's move this. Yeah.
If you want to do cluster.
All right, we'll cluster. The following present.
Perfect.
Thank you. Directed by Claudia.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
The following presentation is taken exclusively from the 150 or so page FBI file on William Carlos Williams. Frank will be playing the part of William Carlos Williams. I will be playing the part of the news media and various complainants. And Anton will be playing the part of the FBI.
According to available information, the above-named individual was born on September 17, 1883, at Rutherford, New Jersey, and resides at 9 Ridge Road, Rutherford, New Jersey. The following is contained in the August 15, 1952 issue of the publication Counterattack.
What about this appointment to Library of Congress? Last week it was announced that on September 17th, Dr. William Carlos Williams will assume the position of consultant on poetry in English at the Library of Congress. Dr. Williams, a poet, novelist, and physician, has been a fellow of Library of Congress for the last 3 years. Here is his other than political record. He was a signer of Golden Book of American Friendship with the Soviet Union. This was a collection of good wishes sent to people of Stalin Russia in 1937. He signed a statement demanding end of House Committee on Un-American Activities. He contributed to Partisan Review. This magazine is now strongly anti-communist, but in 1930s it called itself a bi-monthly of revolutionary literature, published by the John Reed Club of New York. The John Reed Clubs were open communist organizations. And in April 1951, the National Council of Arts, Sciences, and Professions billed him as a speaker at a rally to honor John Howard Lawson, Dalton Trumbo, and Albert Maltz, 3 of Hollywood 10 who were just out of prison. Other speakers billed for the meeting were Paul Robeson, actor-director Sam Wanamaker, Clifford Odets. Can't Library of Congress find a distinguished poet with a pro-freedom record to fill the post? As long as U.S. government is subsidizing people, why doesn't it subsidize anti-totalitarians?
An undated one-page document with the letterhead, "The Lyric Foundation Incorporated and the lyric for traditional poetry, captioned "A Call to Action," contains the following.
The Librarian of Congress announces that on September 17th, Dr. William Carlos Williams will assume the post of consultant in English poetry at the Library of Congress. Such an appointment is an insult both to American poetry and American citizenship. So much of his poetry is obscure or obscene that Dr. Williams quotes with amazing frankness the comment of one of his friends. "Geez, Doc, I guess it's all right, but what the hell does it mean?" And here is a sample about which there can be no mistake, the very voice of communism.
Oh, Russia, Russians, come with me into my dream and let us be lovers. These I dedicate to you. I hold back nothing. I lay my spirit at your feet, among many others, undistinguished. Of no moment, I am in the background.
In the New Masses, December 1930, at page 22, under the page heading Letters from Readers, appeared the following.
Poor Doc, nobody wants his life or his verses.
I like the John Reed note. Here's money, send me more. The only thing is, what the hell? I feel in a false position. How can I be a communist being what I am? Poetry is the thing which has the hardest hold on me in my daily experiences. But I cannot, without an impossible wrench of my understanding, turn it into a force directed toward one end. Vote the communist ticket. Or work for the world revolution. There are too many difficulties in my way. I can, however, see the monumental block width of social injustices surrounding me on every side. But why they arise, God only knows. But in any case, they are there, and I would give my life freely if I could write them. But who the hell wants my life? Nobody, as far as I can see. They don't want my verse, which is of more importance. I'm for you. I'll help you as I can. I'd like to see you live. And here's to the light from whatever it may come. Yours, William Carlos Williams, Rutherford, New Jersey.
The Washington Star, September 26, 1954, ran an article entitled "Tangled Tale of Library's Poet Who Never Quite Got the Job." Williams still waits word on FBI check started 2 years ago, stating William Carlos Williams' appointment as poet in residence of Library of Congress in 1952 was never effected and infers FBI check still pending.
America's closest equivalent to a poet laureate is the poet in residence of the Library of Congress. This post has been vacant for 2 years, and the question is, has poetic justice been done? Dr. Williams, who calls himself a liberal and a non-political man, admits to having been an unwary signer of various pleas and resolutions that turned out to be communist-sponsored. But he was certainly, he says, not a communist, and not even a communist sympathizer.
I just signed letters, which I wasn't able to sift. Unfortunately, the communists have used liberal citizens in all categories of this country, in religion and politics. I don't think much of the way the Communist Party takes advantage of an unguarded citizenry.
Nothing was was further from his mind in the fall of 1952, when Dr. Williams happily prepared to come to Washington to take the chair of poetry. He looked upon the occasion as
the crowning gesture of my life as a literary man.
he wound up his personal affairs in New Jersey and hired a house at 121 2nd Street, Southeast. His term was to begin in September, but because of illness, he postponed coming until December 15th. But on December 4th, 1952, his wife received a letter from Chief Assistant Librarian Werner Clapp telling her that a preliminary FBI report had occasioned the library to ask for a further full investigation. Dr. Williams, Mr. Clapp said, would not be able to take office until the allegations had been investigated. Dr. Williams still doesn't know what the investigation revealed, or his status in relation to the poet-in-residence position. Reached by telephone yesterday, Dr. Williams said,
I don't know a thing. What did they find? They never did give me any indication. I received a communication from the FBI to be fingerprinted and replied to all sorts of preliminary inquiries. Then I wasn't even given the courtesy of a reply. For heaven's sake, what kind of a country is this?
thank you.
Thank you so much. That was terrific. So I want to introduce first Katie Farris, our first teacher tonight. Katie Farris is
Claudia,
most...
I'm so sorry. He's actually going to go first.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So, first we'll hear from Ilya Kaminsky. Ilya Kaminsky was born in Odessa, Ukraine. He's the author of Deaf Republic from Red Wheelbarrow Poets, which was the New York Times notable book for 2019 and was a National Book Award finalist, and Dancing in Odessa from Tupelo Press, and is a co-editor and co-translator of many other books, including Echo Anthology of International Poetry from HarperCollins. His work received the Los Angeles Times Book Prize. And on his book, which I have it right here, his book is Deaf Republic. And I was preparing for tonight. I want to read to you just a little bit of this quote from the American Academy of Arts and Letters citation for the Addison M. Metcalf Award. With his magical style in English, Kaminsky's poems seem like a literary counterpart to Chagall, in which laws of gravity have been suspended and colors reassigned, but only to make everyday reality that much more indelible. His imagination is so transformative that we respond with equal measures of grief and exhilaration. And here to read for us tonight is Ilya Kaminsky.
Thank you so much for being here. Since by now you already can hear that I speak with a pretty heavy accent, I will give you some handouts so that you can follow. Otherwise, you may learn Russian by the end of this session.
Could you be a little louder, please?
Much louder.
You need to speak louder.
But, yeah.
About 2 or 3 times.
How loud would you like?
As loud as you can make it.
I can take some of
Yeah, I can help.
Great. More with this? You got one?
Thank you so much. So while the handout will be first, I just want to thank you for having me here.
Громче.
Louder.
Yeah.
How about now?
Good.
All right.
We'll take it.
I'm really using when people Anyone yell at me because I can't hear.
And talk more slowly. Loud and slow.
Loud and slow.
Okay.
Middle.
How about now?
Nice.
Yeah.
Hello, my fellow Americans, can you hear me?
Well, you want to be heard.
Yeah.
All right, do you all have the copy of the handout?
Yes.
There's a few missing, if you have more.
Do you have any more?
I don't, maybe you guys can share it.
That's okay, I
You sure?
understand perfectly. I'm fine.
You sure?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to read you some poems from Deaf Republic. The first one in the handout is called "We Live Happily During the War." Okay. We live happily during the war, and when they bombed other people's hearts, we got them, but not enough. We have supported them, but not enough. I wasn't my bad. I love my bad. America was fun. Invisible hands, by invisible hands, by invisible hands. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous rain, in the house of money, in the street of money, in the city of money, in the country of money, our great country of money. We forgive us, live happily. Let's not club. There's a long list of people who want to respond, so let's not take time for that. The rest of what I'm going to read is from a story of Deaf Republic, which begins with a pregnant woman and her husband, who at a public gathering see a soldier shoot and kill a young deaf boy. And in response to that murder, they see the whole community decide to stand up and protest the authorities by refusing to hear them. So Deaf Republic, gunshot. Our country is a stage. When soldiers march into town public assemblies are officially prohibited. But today, neighbors flock to the piano music from Sonia and Alfonso's puppet show in Central Square. When some of us have climbed up the trees, others hide behind benches and telegraph posts. When Peter, the deaf boy in the front row sneezes, the sergeant puppet collapses shrieking. He stands up again, snort, shake his fist at the laughing audience. The army jeeps burst into the squadrons, gorging at so and turn and disperse immediately. Disperse immediately. The puppet mimics in a booming falsetto. Everyone freezes, except Petya, who keeps giggling. Someone claps their hand over his mouth and Sergeant turns toward the boy raising his finger. You! The puppet raises a finger. Sonia watches her puppet. The puppet watches the sergeant. The sergeant watches Sonia and Alphonse. But the rest of us watch Peter lean by, gather round the spirit in his robe, and lunch, and the surgeon, the sun, we do not hear, lift the guards of the border. As Sonia marched, Alfonso covered the boy's face with a newspaper. For the people, most of us strangers, watch some of you men taking a shot in the middle street. She picks up his spectacles shining like two gold, balances them on his nose, observes this moment, hardly convulses. Snow fastens it down and into the streets like maidens, walking on his watch. So that kisses his forehead across the fall in the sky. He trembles apart when she's fortunes. We see in Sonia's open mouth the happiness of the whole nation. She stretches out beside the little snowman napping in the middle of the street, speaking up and spelling the country around. Alphonse, you slow. You're alive. I wish for to myself therefore something in you distance, something that runs down the street, falls, fails, to get up, I etc. With my legs on my hand, behind my pregnant wife, etc. Around the Western Castellina, etc. It only takes a few minutes, etc. To make a man. Darkness and insurgency begin. Our country woke up next morning and refused to hear soldiers. In the name of Kenya, we refuse. At 6 a.m., when soldiers come with the ghosts in the alleyway, the ghosts slide by, pointing to their ear. At 8, the makers are trodden soldiers who want to face those who is their best customer. At 10, Mama Gala chops, no one hears you. And the gates of the Sonian Empire, by 11 a.m., our last begin. Our hearing does not weaken, but something silent in us stretches. After curfew, families of the arrested have homemade puppets out of their windows. The streets empty, but for the squeaks of screams and the tap against the buildings of wooden fists and feet. In the ears of the town, snow falls. Alphonse stands and so. My people, you want to do something fucking fun? And the morning of the ghost arrest, or when once frightened and bound to their beds, now stand up like human marks. The disperses do ask like a police whistle. Here the night testify, each of us comes home, shots at a wall and a store, with him be free, you never let himself forgive me. I was honest with you, like to you I stand, and swearable, I ran etc. With my legs in my hands, etc. And I ran down my history, etc. Whoever listens, thank you for the fun my time. Thank you for our argument that ends. Thank you for dancing slowly. Touch fire from a match. You never leave. A microphone, an open box. A microphone. I want you to certain days that that boy take iron and fire in his mouth, his face on the asphalt, that microphone, an open valves. It is the air. Something in the air won't us too much. The earth is still. The Democrats seem to come with sandwiches its front plate, so let's examine the years of they begin themselves thus to sow. They turn worst wife from her bed like a door laughing bars. Observe this moment, how it convulses. The body of the boy lies on the asphalt like a pepper clips. The body of the boy lies on the asphalt like the body of a boy. I touch the walls, feel the pulse of the heart, and I stand up borderless and do not know why I am alive. We keep those you see, so and I, between thee that sun garden, sun and island gates, be courageous, we say, but no one is courageous. As a sound we do not hear lifts the birds off the water. Before the war, you made a child. I kissed a woman whose freckles are lost and nameless. She had a mole on her shoulder, which she displayed like a man for bravery. Her trembling lips might come to bear. Her hand would have fallen in the middle of the conversation. Might come to bear. I walk in my barber shop of those. Yes, I leave it her off to wear on the chair of my hanging arms. But parted lips, my parted lips lie under the cushions. The things we did. I feel that my wife shows the shape of her child. So this drag up the stairs and homeless dykes, when as philosophers understand everything. And back, now on a breach, there's no camouflage of speech. And back, wrapping the body of my pregnant wife. Tonight, we don't die, and don't die. The earth is still. A helicopter I most, my wife. On earth, a man cannot flip a finger at the sky, because each man is already a finger flipped at the sky. Lullaby. Little daughter, throws my shoes and glasses in the air. I'm a deaf people and I have no country but a stop and an infant and a married bird. Something together that is sacred to us. Watching each other's shoulders. You can fuck anyone. But with whom can you see it? In water. Fire bombardment. My body runs in a someone shoot. The blue canary of my country runs in the walls, in the street lights, in the loved ones. The blue canary of my country washes their legs, and they run and fall. I see goodbye. What Washington citizens do not know, they are evidence of happiness. In a time of war, each is only picked out Darkness, our last watch God, that has something to tell what not even they can hear. Climb a roof in a center square of this bounded out city. You will see one neighbor lifts a cigarette, another gives the dog a pint of Sunday beer. You will find God like a damn pigeon's beak, I am packing every which way. Astonishment finds one. A balcony starlit and hopeless, sunlight and our leaves. Today, no one is shooting. A girl cuts her hair with imaginary scissors. The scissors and sunlight her hair and sunlight. Another girl nicks a pair of shoes from a sleeping soldier's covered with light. A soldier's wake and gave a task, gaping at them. What do they see? Tonight, they just 50 women at Learner's Street. I sit down to write and tell you what I know. A child learns the world by putting it in her mouth. A girl becomes a woman and a woman on the body. They blame you for all this, and they seek in the body what does not live in the body. The townspeople watch them take Alfonso. The townspeople watch them take. Now, each of us is a witness stand. Wasn't it? Watch is us. Watch for soldiers. Row Alfonso Brabinski on his sidewalk. We let them take him. All of us. Come. What we don't say. We carry in our suitcases, our coat pockets, our nostrils. Across the streets they watch him with spitefulness. First he screams and he stops so much sunlight. A teacher falls off a closet slide and the old man stops, picks it up, presses it to his face. Neighbor blind enough to watch him thrown on a stifled like a body left alone. In so much sunlight, each of us is a witness stand. They take Alfonso, and no one that our silence and thought for us. The last poem I'll read to bring it closer home, okay? It's called In a Time of Peace. In a Time of Peace. Inhabitant of Earth for 40-something years, I once found myself in a peaceful country. I was in neighbors to open their phones to watch a car. Imagine, am I still alive with license? And when a man reaches pockets full of the car, shoots into the car window. Shoots. It is a peaceful country. We pack in our phones and go to the dentist to pick up the children from school, to buy shampoo and bathe. Ours is a country in which a boy shot by police lies on the pavement for hours we see. In his open mouth, the nakedness of the whole nation. You watch others, watch the body of a boy, life and a pleasant, exactly like the body of a boy. It is a peaceful country, and it clips out citizens' bodies effortlessly. There is a presence, wife, trips, photographs. Always, she'll have to do the hard work of dance, stubbornness, of remembering to make a sound, celebrate, tomatoes, let us enjoy tomatoes, said a little sound. This is a time of peace. I don't hear gunshots, but much blood splash over the backyards of the suburbs. How bright is the sky as the avenue spins on its axis? How bright is the sky? How bright?
That was very moving and impressive. The book is Deaf Republic. And now I'll introduce our second teacher tonight, Katie Farris. Katie Farris' most recent book, Standing in the Forest of Being Alive, from Alice Jane's Books, and Liverpool in the US and Liverpool University Press in the UK, was listed as Publishers Weekly Top 10 Poetry Books for 2023. She's also the author of the hybrid form text Boys Girls, Merrick Press 2011, Tupelo Press 2019, and the co-translator of many works, including A Country in Which Everyone's Name is Feared, which was one of World Literature Today's notable books of 2022. She's a Pushcart Prize winner. Please welcome Katie Farris.
Thank you so much. That is always a hard act to follow, but at least I've gotten used to it by now, right? So I'm going to be reading tonight from Standing in the Forest of Being Alive. This is actually the first reading that I have done since it came out, because my book birthday was yesterday. Yay! Yeah, so thank you for being here on this special night with me. So, Standing in the Forest of Being Alive, you'll get the storyline, but basically, in August 2020, a couple days before my 37th birthday, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so the book kind of follows the arc of from diagnosis through treatment, like chemo, surgery, and then radiation, and sort of ends roughly there, although I'm still in treatment now. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's everything you need to know. So the first poem is called Why Write Love Poetry in a Burning World. To train myself in the midst of hell, to find what isn't hell. The body bald, cancerous but still beautiful enough to imagine living, the body washing, the body replacing a loose front porch step, the body chewing what it takes to keep a body going. This scene has a tune, a language I can read, a door I cannot close. I stand within its wedge, a shield. Why write love poetry in a burning world? To train myself in the midst of a burning world, to offer poems of love to a burning world. I'm fine. Yeah, okay. It's fine, yeah. So the next poem is called Tell It Slant. You float in the MRI gloam, several spiculated masses, I name you cactus, carcinoma be damned. You make a desert of all of me. Have I said it slant enough? Here's a shot between the eyes. 6 days before my 37th birthday, a stranger called and said, "You have cancer, unfortunately," and then hung up the phone. It was COVID time, I don't know. All right, and this is called on the morning of the port surgery. So prior to having chemo, you get a port implanted under your skin, and it's basically a pump that moves the chemotherapy directly into your heart because putting it into your veins is so toxic to your veins, they just can't stand up to it. On the morning of the port surgery, before dawn, I walk outside the clock. I strip and fold my clothes into a bag, surrender my braid. I'm wheeled into the operating theater for the opening act of what will become a defining role, cancer patient, stage 3. Oh, feather-headed mongrel, my pickled, flea-bit heart, thrice sword stabbed, please keep beating. Ungraceful, the heart boinks, drugged, suspended, spider-webbed. This is called In the Event of My Death. What used to be a rope descending my vertebrae to the basement of my spine grows thin. In solidarity with my first chemotherapy, our cat leaves her whiskers on the hardwood floor. I gather them, each pure white parenthesis, and plant them in the throat of the earth. In quarantine, I learned to trim your barbarian hair. Now it stands always on end, a salute to my superior barbery skills. In the event of my death, promise you will find my heavy braid and bury it. I will need a rope to let me down into the earth. I've hidden others strategically around the globe, a net to catch my body in its weaving. The man you are, the boy you are. The man you are opens the door to your anguish, a mirror of my own. We've both grown silver around the eyes. But in your pocket, the boy you are brings me a melted candy bar. You issue commands like an old man, then take out my trash like a young boy with a crush. If marriage is a series of increasing intimacies, a slow, sweet collapse into oneness, I would still beg your forgiveness for asking your assistance unwinding that pale hair from my hemorrhoid. Outside Atlanta Cancer Care, I return to this point of wonder. What kind of animal begins to stand on such small feet? And only 2? What vertical absurdity, what upright madness. Perhaps we were imitating the trees, lifting our arms, wishing for roots, and then forgot to set ourselves down on our 4 more rational feet. Our longing grew our fingers longer, twigs into branches. For if you long hard enough, do you not find fruit in your palms? I return to this point of wonder. Rachel's chair. Once, many years ago, we made love at a friend's house. We were overnight guests, not perverts, on the whole. But what I'm trying to say is she owned a chair so perfect for lovemaking, we joked about asking to take it home. If I had only known then how rarely we would find such objects, I would have. This is one section from a poem called Emeloma, a Riddle and an Answer. Will you be my death, breast? I had asked you in jest, and in response you hardened, a test of my resolve, malignant, magnificent, palimpsest. I forgot the copy of my book with the little flags in it, so I apologize. This is called To the Pathologist, Reading My Breast, Palimpsest, written with Dr. Kimberly Pointe-du-Jour. This is, there are two quotations in here from my pathology report, and this is the first one. You'll recognize the second. Specimen B, removed fresh and subsequently placed in formalin, consists of a 392-gram simple-oriented mastectomy. Dear doctor, you've done my work for me in your first line with your tidy, slanting rhyme of specimen and formalin. To rhyme mastectomy, I thought my dear friend's pregnancy. She and I, our birthdays, 2 slender months apart, both of us harboring rapidly dividing cells so near our hearts. How's that for art? Present on the interior surface is a tan, grossly unremarkable skin ellipse with an eccentric, soft, everted nipple. Beneath my grossly unremarkable skin ellipse, an inscription there of every kiss, a couple playful, too hard twists, and late night drunken dairy strips. But mostly my own homely grip as I skidded into sleep. This is called 5 Days Before the Mastectomy, Insurrection at the Capitol. The timing was fantastic. What is the door the bullet makes in the body? America, the gun, predictable, mechanical, possessed of several chambers. If I reside right by your side, must I expect your dangers? Who holds you holstered, America, the gun? What is the door the bullet makes in the body? What do we call it? Body? This is called Woman with Amputated Breast Awaits PET Scan Results. The waiting, sleek as otters, slips between your lips. Without the waiting, who can know when spring will come or snow? Heading south, the geese all beat the waiting with their wings. Turn on the light at 2 a.m. The waiting stands, hand on your head, a most maternal haunting. Swimming, the human body humps along. Each dive in time ends so close to its beginning. Help me to spell waiting, I forget. And whom can I tell how much I want to live? I want to live. A stone, the waiting weights my body into stone. What's left? Almost a palindrome. And standing in the forest of being alive. I stand in the forest of being alive. In one hand, a cheap aluminum pot of chicken stock, and in the other, a heavy book of titles. Oh, once walking through a cemetery, I became terribly lost and could not speak. No one living knows the grammar. No one could direct me to the grave, so I looked at every name. A heavy bird flapped its wings over someone's sepulcher. Some of us are still putzes in death, catching bird shit on our headstones. Some of us never find what we're looking for, praying it doesn't pour before we find our names, certain we're headed in the right direction. A drizzle begins, and what's nameless inside our veins fluoresces in the rain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I always said it's like survival of the fittest reading with him. You gotta learn how to.
So great.
Oh man.
I never heard you read before too, but I never heard him read before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's really
amazing.
different. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That was great. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure I've got one somewhere in the back too.
These are actually premium jeans.
If you're going to go back up there.
Well, I have to see, you're not the
So that's
No, that's it.
You've got it.
I like to come back.
I was wondering, the right knee.
In relation to
The mic up on the stage, because I think it's,
I think it's a little too close. Yeah. Yeah. On the stages, I mean, when you guys read, it was good on the stage before. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Claudia.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, please. Thank you for bringing us. Oh no, please let me. It's a real honor to come. So we really appreciate it. Absolutely.
I got it before, so if you just want to sign it.
the restaurant.
My family's from like that. But it didn't happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hopefully that will make sense.
So where she's staying is
after
not
today.
far from
yeah, I remember.
You remember? Okay, good. That was great. That was a nice way to extend the idea of reading poems.
All credit to Dom.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really nice.
Peter's a great.
Did you get my
got
water?
married to
And then you kept it. Yeah. That sounds amazing. It's National Clothing Month. They're on sale.
We found out about
but they didn't have to.
I've got this one here.
The Ukrainians were paying.
Yes, yeah, I will go.
well, no, they were lifelong friends.
So they get them to come here.
But they were lifelong
Get
friends.
them to come to Ukraine. Exempt them from they gave them religious freedom.
Really kind of understand was an
I miss it.
it's,
And then I just
it's very hard.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Separate humans from
Not longer like to be big.
Karen.
so many things that get canceled. And but it's happened throughout this year. There were the female pharaohs. Obliterated, male pharaohs that didn't want any and of course we'll never know about the female pope. Just joking. In a couple of billion years, everything is different. And things have changed so rapidly that we're becoming obsolete.
There we go.
I mean, as we get older. Everything that I used to train people on computers before I retired in 2000, everything that I use is more
I'm not going to direct the 20 years.
So I'm doing the transmission, which is like here for national transmission.
One of the
But it got to a point when
Thank you so much. We're just doing $10 each today. So there we go. Thank you very much. Yes, National Post.
administratively and in the West. And I troubleshot stuff. None of that is you know what I wish?
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love your colors.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. It's not enough men are wearing maroon. I truly believe that.
What's that?
There are not enough men wearing maroon. I truly believe that.
Back in the 70s, they were.
I know, and it's like they just left it. They left it there. And it's,
I wear turtlenecks when it's cool. Actually, there was like a poem about that. I want women so in larger sizes because back in the 60s and 70s, those colors were available to men, but not anymore.
Yeah, that's
and I'm like, why can't I wear like this color?
Yeah.
That you could see in old films.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I have a whole poem, and
It's
in my
not
most
unmanly
recent
to
book.
wear turquoise, right? It's like, yeah.
I have turquoise shirts. But my 23-year-old nephew, I was asking all, I know 4 of my nephews together. I have 4, and 2 live in Texas, 2 live here in New Jersey. But, you know, we're only all together at certain times. So I remember asking, what's your favorite color? Something I didn't know. I was so surprised that a 22-year-old who's in business, like he's in business, he works in supply chain. I just graduated last year. He said, you're a turquoise or a teal. And I was so surprised that he was so, that's such a sophisticated
Specific too.
you know, like my favorite is blue, but that could be any shade. And in Russia, there are 2 words specifically for blue.
Yep. Light blue and
blue.
no, other blue.
Yellow boys,
Yellow boy, yeah.
and
Seedy. Yeah.
do you speak Russian too?
Not well, but I can get by.
I can read that a little bit well, I can read it with a dictionary and a translation. You know, like I send it through, I've read Anton's book.
Yeah. Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, I'm very hooked on phonics about it, and it's frustrating when you've got so much facility in one language. For me, it's excruciating not to be able to read it.
Yeah, I wish I could do it better. I never studied it, but you know, I know.
But that's still really just to be able to get through
somewhat of a vocabulary.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I always plateau with languages. I'm only fluent in one, but I know enough of them to read them, understand them, speak more or less.
Yeah. It's that thing where, like, unless you go there and live there, like, it's really tough.
It is hard, especially because we're English speakers. You know, I just don't need it.
Exactly. Yeah, we were talking about, we do a fair bit of translation, and so apparently only 3% of like world literature gets translated into English. Like, that's actually not even literature, that's anything. Like microwave manuals, you know. It's mind-boggling to me, and then it's something like 70% of the translation is from English out into other languages, right? So, yeah, it's so important.
Like air traffic controllers, their language, no matter what country you're from, no matter what your native language is, it's all in English. Air traffic control.
It's like our version of the lingua franca.
And it's throughout history there have been other lingua francas. I mean, once in French was the language that everybody had to know.
Even in England.
In England, of course. Well, when the Germans, the Hanoverians came to England, they didn't speak English. I mean, they later, I think that by George II language, I mean, George III obviously did. But the way they communicated with the rest of the ministers and the people in government was in French. And up until like Richard, Henry the First, Richard.
She's the one who has all the dynasties.
Early 13th century, it was French. You know, in fact, most of them didn't even know English. Cleopatra was the first colony. After 300 years, the first colony who ever learned Egyptian. All the rest, you know, everything was Greek.
Yeah. It's like Dante, right?
She learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
She knew. And
We're doing $10 a piece. Yes, really a pleasure. Another language nerd. Yeah, just really fun. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Yes, we really appreciate it. Here, I'm going to stand up just because No, I'm okay. I'm totally fine. Just it's a little loud.
Sorry. I was just going to say that my wife is not too bad.
Thank you so much. Thank you. No, thank you. And I wish her the best of luck. And life to her. Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's done. Good.
Our first open mic reader is Nicole Zach.
Is that too high? Yeah, we got to mess around with it a little bit. Okay, I'll take care of this. There we go. I don't know what's going on with it. Okay, that's fine. I think it's good.
It's visible.
Hey, Nicole.
That's your advice. Next one from future. Okay, so here we go. Having a drink, thoughts of Jesus, formulating a plan to respect and order.
Society has evil, but fights it with fervor for peace. Bless and give hope to the future, to make a name, claim fame, and ride with freedom. Thank you.
I'm just gonna stay here. The camera doesn't need to see me every time, in the interest of time. Next reader is John J. Charles.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Great to hear the features tonight and to see you all. Thanks to the Gang of Six for making this happen. I'm not sure which I'm going to read. Okay, I think I'll do this one. Last month was the 59th anniversary of the murder of Kitty Genovese in Kew Gardens, some of the old poets remember. So this is a poem called The Way of Saint Kitty of Kew Gardens. And I have traced the Via Dolorosa of Saint Kitty of Kew, up Boston Street near Lefferts Boulevard, past the Mowbray Apartments, the pub below her apartment building, the stretch where she was stabbed, the train station parking lot, the back alleyway where she felt safe haven, the doorway along the alley in which she was stabbed again and died and raped post-mortem, in a little hallway behind the green door, and I have looked down from the West Virginia apartments to the spot below, and I have faced the first spot from in front of the Mowbray Apartments, and I have dined in the pub below her apartment building, and I have soaked in all the details of her death, and I have traced the stations of her passion, and I have heard her cries 50 years later, and did nothing but write this poem. Thank you.
Next speaker is the host of tonight's event, Claudia Serea.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the beautiful reading. It's such a pleasure to see all the faces, the new faces, with poetry. I'm going to read a poem from my book, In Those Years No One Slept. It's dedicated to my parents in Romania. Climbing. Each year, my parents grow smaller, summer to summer. They lighten up, climbing into old age like into a tree. Shedding their shoes, coats, hats, shirts, socks, pocket change, mom's purse, dad's wristwatch, their wedding rings. I wonder if they transfer their weight onto me, if I get heavier year to year, if my words or my dreams get denser, and I carry them slower like rocks or lead in my pockets. My parents get lighter and lighter like birds or balloons, rising into the old age tree, until I can't see them any longer. But I know they're still there, climbing, hidden from view among the tall branches.
Thank you, Claudia. Our next speaker is Mike Mandic. Yeah.
Hey everybody. Thank you for amazing. Thanks to Red Wheelbarrow Poets. Thank you, Don, for all your help. Helping me get my shit together. This poem is a work in progress. It's called Declination. 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 My world revolves around your star, your blooming core, your profusion of starry heat. Tethered, thus, I dance beneath your phased reflections, ducking under your swelling side, bumping against your biggest bulge. You have taken my measure, my direction, my speed. You have seen my veer from true north and marked my declension from the pole star. You twirled frostlight into intergalactic splatter that found its emotional subjective primate derailed, off track, ever spun with rounded decibels. My deepest fears gravitate from within dark lobes, fears that my worthless dross will never suffice to love you always and forever. Until mercy, your lips spray noble shine in a rising arc. The phases of your smile rotate shadows through my precious fragmentary remains, elliptically aglow with gratitude and hope.
Next up, Patrick Hughes.
I think he split.
Oh, he split. All right. Well. All right then. John Dull.
Always a surprise here. Every time it's a surprise. The worms. I don't know where they come from. I just know that they're here. Early spring, the compost heap, the worms appear. They do such work methodically. The leaves will disappear to rich black soil becoming earth. The worms are here. And I wonder, in this universe of worms we cannot see, they're slipping in and slipping through to leave things as they all must be. And in a rotting compost heap, they've come to eat. Oh dear. To feast on any putrid waste. The worms are here. The worms are here. The worms are here. The worms.
Next up, our fearless leader and head of the workshop for many years, Jim Klein.
I'm going to close the door first.
I'll close it.
This is my first book, Blue Chevys.
Yeah.
Blue Chevys. Published by Mark, who's not here tonight, I'm sorry. Anybody know why it's named Blue Chevys?
I think I do.
What is it?
It's because now you see blue Chevys.
Right. You had a
Until I loved you, I never knew. went back for the wedding of her niece. And they had a goat in the backyard. And I said to her brother, are we going to kill that goat? And she said yes. That's what it's about. I don't want to kill the animal. I don't want to kill the goat. I don't want to bring the machete of subject and verb down. Subject and predicate down. On Bobby's wedding for his daughter. By hacksaw, cleaver, and knife, I don't want to render the body and spirit of Boyle into edible bits, no matter how delicious. I want the goat whole. There's nothing to prove to the goat as Shafina and her sister watch in black hijabs from the house. He doesn't need to be led by a rope and relieved of his life in a little spurting fountain, or trussed by a hind leg in the face of his own cage, beneath the flimsy galvanized in service of what black red Vatican he knows not, the pole. Bobby hangs his hat where he can reach. 40 pounds of garlic, 200 of flour for roti, part of palm stacked like whale bones, and I am ashamed to say, boxes of cubed frozen goat. The frozen goat is not as good. But Bobby has to sell his truck because sugar cane is a weed in Trinidad now. Before that, his top shelf restaurant failed. And he has a prior 10 years in the slammer in Barbados for smuggling drugs. My wife estimates his marriages at 4. Light rain drums on the roof, and I watch from the dung-jeweled pen. Bobby has more charisma than any man deserves. He loiters in from his muddy dump, roped this last time to his goat. It doesn't take a genius to see something is happening. But like the man ridden out of town on a rail, if it wasn't for the honor, I'd just as soon walk. There was talk that someone knew the short version and someone knew the long. But the truth is that no words as words at all were spoken. Of course, Bobby is just trying to be a good Muslim. The rest are Pentecostal. And maybe his good friend will take his mind off his daughter's wedding. Bobby tips the goat like a dining room table, and the white-haired, white-capped old factotum dispatches voiceless Boyle fairly routinely. I admit it, I thought of Daniel Pearl. We hoisted the flapping sacrifice like an engine in a garage, cleaving the hide, whitish inside, and drawing and quartering, as they say. The phosphorescent guts ballooning onto the white plastic pail. At Bobby's order, I retrieved the muddy skin from beneath the springing goat. I divided the goat on one side of the pen. I divided the way home from Second Sunday, Alima says, Jim danced chutney, Jim cut a goat, Jim plenty. Stag is a man's beer, Guinness is good for you. These are road signs. Be free of yourself, chant and be happy. To be born and live every day is to kill plenty. That's it. I mentioned Second Sunday. The tradition is you get married, and then in 2 Sundays, you go pick up the bride and take her home, if you want to. So Zurita's father didn't want to. He didn't pick up his bride, but one day somebody knocked on her door, and Zurita knew it was her brother.
Next up is Sal Rosero.
You guys were amazing. This is beautiful, gorgeous work. Oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you. On Bensonhurst, we were not lost as we walked the decimal streets back from the bookstore under the L, already past the 70s. A faction of figures fractioned in the hierarchy of things shared, taking stock in brimming pubescence, liking the same girls while scanning 18th Avenue rooftops for comic book antics and skyline espionage. Like in the 80s when love interests and skill sets muddled, Romanoff and Murdoch swinging gritty on their respective lines, scraping through New York City, stalking night and staking out Hell's Kitchen. A foggy silhouette of brimstone romance camouflaged in the sullen steam rising from sewer caps. Taking stock in grottos before kicking the shit out of numbers of goons with or without guns and ninjas with everything else. After hours brooding in book aisles like they were back alleys, absorbing the binders of sideways sci-fi titles, taking mental note for intended inventory never reached, we'd, long after, still ponder the shadowed outlines fearlessly penned over hips and breasts. Like when Frank Miller showed us shades of love and deception, a Dear John forged at the hand of a widow's bite, the lashing of brutal but convincing truth to adrenaline and senses, heightened and forgotten, blind but for fingertips, sensitive and fooled by the subtle ink embedded, lies parted and stitched by knowable threads, the heart once measured, twice cut, the noir as chaste as stick and stone. By the modest peaks of pinched temples, the hand is healing, then wholly the body straightened, short of pocket and exploit, and thus, climbing garage roofs, we crossed over backyards, and me, an injured daredevil, cringing, my knee popped out of joint, decrying to shift it back into place, readying for the quick discomfort and the wail of a bent knee straightened. dropping down to walkways, stealthy by the house side, to peek in acquainted windows. Ditching daylight, we reduce into the pitch of common ground. And those decibel streets we walked long ago, now and then, even they seem a distant fiction.
Next up, apologies in advance if I mispronounce the name, John Schunjunger.
Hello everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. You did well with me. Wild swans at sea caucus, fevered land, sick with excesses of man. Shift the brown despair and hues of silence. Lift the layer of insects, find beneath it your worth. Once speckled with meat of innocence, once spied only by careful hunters. Gray air mourns the missing, anonymous and bright. Green choked by black, sentinels sharp, unforgiving, a constant curse, a living poison. Yet, in nearby waters float swans, ethereal, as white here as on an Irish lake, a pair, lonely, placid warriors against the machine, oil and steel, no match for their tranquility. A rusting bridge beckons, connects island to dying island, asks watchers to forget in frenzied journeys. But the land, the fevered land, still with echoes, is pushed toward a sorrowful, graceful balm. Kiss its muddy banks and hope for resurrection.
Our next speaker is Raymond Turco.
That's a good entrance.
You want to hit next? I can go this.
No, that's not. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to read a poem. The title of this poem is Youth Left Out in the Rain. Chalk scrapes on the blackish board, and so there are assessments and appraisals. I'm a marionette with a head of maggots. Folks just want to see me dance over the flaming sun. No more clubhouses for me. I've got work and my skin is sandpaper. My teeth rot from the cigars I've smoked over busy proposals. When will they give me my gold coin? I don't know who that is in the mirror, and they ask me to come to church, but the oil's burning and there's not much left of time, and my forehead aches to dry. All my youths I haven't kept under umbrellas. Thank you.
Next up is Brandon McEntee.
You guys are fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for your reading. It was really inspirational. Thank you, Gang of Six and Red Wheelbarrow. I damaged my eyes recently, so you get to read like this. It's called Still Needs a Title. As an epigraph, what happens in your mind before your poem by Frank Rubino? Sometimes my mind shudders like an owlet hearing thunder for the first time. Sometimes it shudders like a deer in the space between being hunted and the brain bullet. Sometimes there's a pinch of sorrow for the distance between the poem and its intention. This used to happen a lot when I was younger. There are times I wonder if I'm more worn out than the world. Sometimes there are prompts. Prompts don't usually work for me. If I had a soul, it would be a 1960s contrarian Daffy Duck with its beak blown sideways. But there are times, like when I'm getting pizza because I'm just too bored to heat up the food I've cooked, and read Frank's email as the new girl with the broken foot boxes me up, and I wonder at the mind, at the dullness of the Oscars, at the fatal writing flaw of The Last of Us. And I'm in my apartment, typing over my plate, trying to title and watching the clock, thinking how I haven't had the impulse to write. That is, the organic zeitgeist cat shit we've been eating since the beats. It's always an ass and chair exercise for me. At least it has been since my mother died. Eye on the clock and titleless. I wrote a poem a day in February because screw April. This is from the 14th. When washing my hands in the stockroom sink on Valentine's Day 2023. And suddenly I remembered you taking my hand when I told my father that my mother had died. How you held my hand at his funeral a year later, and how I took your hand and held on for days while you were letting go. It came like a buckshot to the gut, and I took 10 minutes at the desk under bad fluorescent lighting and the relentless computer fan. I sat in a coffee house with friends on a Sunday. We read parts of Rilke's Camino Elegies aloud, and we were stunned, sometimes shuddered by his words. It reminded me of why, and I stayed in the words as we said goodbye in the gray-lit parking lot. I need a title and I need to change the font.
Next up is Gordon Gilbert.
It's been a wonderful evening. Really enjoyed both of the features and the usual higher level of open mic than I often find in Manhattan. You guys have got it going here. Beginning of this last week, another shooting, another school, and the next morning I sat down and I wrote this. And I'll say right up front, I have nothing against guns. I am a gun owner myself. I am against the worship of guns. I am against the sacrifice of children at the gun. And this is something I wrote called The Gun Owner's Prayer. My gun is my shepherd, I shall not want. Though it maketh kids to lie dead in school classrooms, and it leadeth them to lie beneath small tombstones. It destroyeth my soul. It leadeth me in the paths of wickedness for its own sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, all will fear its evil, for it is with me. Its size and long barrel, they comfort me. It provideth a vengeance for me in the presence of mine enemies. I anointeth my gun with oil. Its ammo runneth over. Surely death and no mercy shall follow me all the days till my death. And I shall dwell in this life with my gun forever.
really.
J. Edgar Hoover should get at least some of the credit. Very powerful feature from both of you, so I really appreciate it. I've had Deaf Republic for a long time. It's one of the few poetry books that I've read cover to cover. I highly recommend it. It's great to see Joanne Santilli here. Without her, we probably wouldn't be here in this venue. Claudia requested this poem, so of course I'm going to read it. It's called Translated from Inuit, even though it's not translated from Inuit. Inuit is often accused of having many words for snow. Come away from the steaming blubber so you do not melt. Snow on me, my snow. Snow on the floor, so unsnowshod I may sink into you. I gladly give you my seals. When the snow changed the snow beneath my dogs to snow, I whipped them with thoughts of you, at which they eagerly yowled, shook the snow onto the snow, and drove on. Your memory was snow upon the snow, our needed traction. Let us be fire for each other, changing my snow to snow, and your snowy eyes to snow. In the snow of your hands, my back is snow. Feel the snow of it ridging. I wonder if your heart is snow, safe from wind, or snow, like my heart, flying to the waterland of Wales. Thank you.
Next up, Joanne Santilli.
I'm very proud to take up the rear on this wonderful evening of wonderful poetry. This is one of the pieces, one of my pieces that will be in the upcoming Sensations magazine, with the theme of Art Deco, which really is a wonderful topic to write poetry about. So this was one of my takes. Attachments. My ancestral stapler sits in my home office, a swing line beauty from the 1920s, an Art Deco classic, taking pride of place, finding space on a minimalist desk. It's an industrial art piece, like a silent steam locomotive. But as with much of what I surround myself, it is more form over function. Years ago, the thing gave up the ghost, going on strike back in the 1990s. Stubbornly, I keep it near my planner, a useless machine with bygone glamour, now only good for fascinating family memories in my mind, reminiscent of a time when things worked well and looked even better.
Next speaker is Pamela van der Zwan.
I actually am more of a visual artist, working in photography, and I started doing text and imagery, and lately I've just been finding more joy in the literary than the imagery. So I thought I'd read something. Searching
Wishing for perfect seashells today had me thinking of loss. I realized as they sat stacked like nesting dolls, they were not perfect, but missing half of themselves. I contemplate loss, and therefore death, more than most. Not my own, mind you, no, not my own. Just death in general. Always have. From the moment we married, I thought about when we would not be married. I was convinced I would go first, the lifeline in my palm being on the shorter side. But it was you, and I am here, thinking about loss, and therefore death, in general. And I think that's normal when half your shell is missing.
Next up is Deaf Poets.
This is from my 5th book of poetry, which was just published in January, Reflections in the Mist. It is about North Indian classical music, which I was hearing first in the 1960s when the hippie generation was listening to Ravi Shankar. I was listening also to others. This is called Raga and Tala. The floating alto of an Indian flute steps into space and time. The veena adding thoughtfully sad sounds of spirit. And Ali Akbar Khan begins a beautifully thoughtful ascending line forward with the sharply piercing metal strings of his sarod. Or a Shrif Kumar Sharma taps the rising tones on his dulcimer like santur. We are flowing into a procession of tonal rapture, slowly repeated again and climbing, sound purifying the moments into peace, spirit lifting as notes rise in raga climbing flow, resettling as descending tones trip down, only to restate the uplifting theme. The tapped, soft, piercing rhythm of the tabla announces a new phase, intensity up a step. A rhythm tala walks into a woven complex stepping structure, the foundation for movement and a spiritual journey. We have been absorbed into a magic world of tone and tranquility. Let the sound swim into your...
My husband. Oh, Harold, my gorgeous one, my only one. From time to time I think of you. I see your ashes, powder remains, shifting back and forth under the icy lake in front of the cottage high in the mountains. Remember how once I loved you? You, the man who made me a bride, a mother, in that final moment of maternal possibility, that 11th hour when harboring guilt allowed a stunning rescue from my barren destiny. Our baby girl, delivered at the tipping point of my fertility, a gift you gave to me, unwillingly at first. This widow's ruminations nestled in shadow whisper, if only. A lonely occupation framed in my regret. If only I had even once attempted to confront your hard resistance, pulling your hand away from that unyielding pose, your arms crossed and resting across your muscular chest. If only I had tried to grab even one hand tightly, holding your fingers,
squeezing your fingers into my fingers as if my life depended on that bony connection, anatomy of skin over tendrils of sensation. If only I had tightly pulled with all of my irresistible rage and adoration, pulled you toward me and held you, till you finally surrendered, giving up your struggle to unlove me. If only I had tried to be kind.
To Ilya and Katie for an incredible reading. So the next poem is mine. It's called Dust Cloud, and it's in three relatively short sections. I won't announce the sections, I'll just make a brief pause. So if I pause a little, that's fine. Dust Cloud. Eyes glazing over your ribeye with rivulets of molasses. Your hair impeccable, prim black dress, black hatchet-like shoes. You taught a master class in courtesy to your new acquaintances with just enough free words to delight and confuse. A perfectly glitz-coordinated icon of professionalism and education. Until someone brought up the ugly, towering monument not far from your father's home, once erected for intimidation, now transformed into abstract art by Molotovs. Your eyes flashed electric around the room and out into the city, the way early autumn sets alleyway maples on fire overnight. Justice for the demeaned, long overdue generosity. All evening you shone, fired us up to accelerate the good fight. Before they set him on fire, they divvied up his body as trophies within his earshot. You take the left leg, I will take the skull. Then they came to his parents' door. Your son's ribcage is still on the patio. You are permitted to collect it if you wish, tomorrow after nightfall. The parents politely nodded, holding off the vertigo, keeping their eyes dry until the door closed behind the departing sadist's dust cloud, knowing what kind of dismemberment awaited them otherwise. Even years later, their waiting never let itself out of their ribcages, trapped in dreams, manifesting in Freudian slips as they heard of people who zapped others on authoritative command. For the rest of their lives, they imagined God's face in the bricks of nearby apartment buildings to help themselves stand. There's a mass grave just outside my town, where my best friend's grandfather dropped by every week to say penance, never talking at dinner about everything he saw, learned, and did in his decades with the secret police. It had started as a war on atrocity. Soon gunshots were so common they could barely be heard anymore, like second violins in an opera. Silence mixed for generations with blood. Then one day, the leader's monument hung upside down from a helicopter. And I look at you now, decades later, and the undertow in your eyes scares the hell out of me, if you want me to be perfectly honest. But you don't. You will never ask. And maybe you're right. All evening, the buzzing of flies over future corpses. Next year there is Frank Rubino. It is.
Okay. Wow. Okay. What a night. What a night. Thank you so much for this reading. It was really wonderful. Both of you. Thanks. And everybody did so great in the open mic. I want to remind everybody that we have this workshop every Tuesday night. So if you don't get a letter, email invitation on Tuesday. and you want one, let me know. Okay, I'm going to read a poem. I think it's sort of short. It is about, the title comes from a podcast I was listening to about Lana Del Rey, who I just think is great. She has like this kind of novelistic art to her music, and she's fantastic. But that's all you have to know about Lana Del Rey. She has nothing to do with this poem. So forget about Lana Del Rey until after the poem. Use the microphone to create intimacy. I'm walking in town, as I do, to be intimate with my memories. After working all day and bending my thoughts. My heart rate's gone up with the hill I climbed, and there's maybe nothing I question more than the existence of myself, and that this person, myself, is worthy of my own testimony. I have to think about being closer to death than birth. I look at the moon and a single star lying to a vector parallel to a church steeple. It's just a fact. Will the moon be closer to the star when I die? Will the churches fall? Or will nothing change? Like what now, Lord? I'm supposed to fit into your master plan? Like the master plan of working as a kid at Frank's lunch? You get into a position because of history. You look at the crimes, the power structure. Work is alienating and you need a walk. My friends were laughing at a small party, and I was doing a loud, rude impression in an alcoholic voice, and me and Rufus stopped being friends. Pretty sure his former owner was an abusive drunk and beat him. And though in the days I've known him, I'd pet his chest and hold his horny old paw, my boisterous manner that one night when we all drunk whiskey scared Rufus and identified me in his mind as cruel. He walked alone into the tall meadow grass above the gully where the game camera saw a bear at the stream crossing, and he fell over and died. And we never got the chance to be close again. You who are listening or reading, I wanted to use this microphone to make you happy. But Rufus came into my thoughts as I walked in town, intimate with my memories. Thanks.
Thanks to all of our open mic readers. This concludes the open mic section, but before we, as per tradition, invite our feature readers so that each of them will read one more poem to close us off. I'm going to invite Claudia to say a few words and present something.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you, everyone. I want to remind everyone that the submissions to our journal, Red Wheelbarrow, are open. We have prose submissions open until May 1st, and poetry submissions open until July 4th. And everyone who read here tonight, including our features, are eligible to submit and be published in our annual journal. And we have a great tradition of, so this is our Red Wheelbarrow number 15 published last year. If you don't have a copy, you should get a copy online. We have, and for our features, it has been our tradition to present them with a copy of our journal. So, and invite you to close the evening with one poem.
I sold my copy. Okay, so going to read, let's see. I'm going to read the last poem in the book. It is a little long, I apologize, but I promise it's entertaining. Oh boy, now I've oversold myself. I want to say thank you. What an, I know, right? What an incredible night. Y'all, as has been remarked before, like, what an incredible open mic. What an incredibly talented group of people. I'm truly honored to be here tonight. Thank you again, Claudia, and thank you. I love that there's a gang of 6. It sounds a little bit like you might beat somebody up in the parking lot afterwards. But you seem nice, but I'll walk fast.
I like that.
Tough poetry. This is called What Would Root. Walking through a cathedral of oak trees and bristle-combed pines, scolded by squirrels in their priestly black, their white collars wagging with the force of their scolding, I was struck simultaneously in both eyes by some kind of flying detritus, pollen or seeds, and stopped to lean against a rock to scrub it, I thought, away. It was May, it was May, it was May, and the air was sweet with pine and island mountain lilac. The squirrels, I mentioned them already, etc., and the lizards ran down the spines of rocks like a bad feeling. I could see everything. Red-headed hummingbirds dipped their beaks into the little red hoods of penstemon, and I, a redhead, could hear everything. A red-crested woodpecker who was not offended. I know his name.